Rock and Roll Fridays, a podcast on musical encounters and life.
Welcome to Rock and Roll Fridays. It's Mike D and special guest Bob. So today we're going to talk about Woodstock 1994.
Woodstock 94. Yep.
The mud, the music, and the mayhem. I remember personally, and we don't use last names on Rock and Roll Friday, so we protect the guilty. But you know who you are. John, Ricky, Kevin. We took a van from Haddon Township, New Jersey to the
Woodstock,
concert.
Up in...
And we were scared to bring in our weed and alcohol. And looking back, we were so naive. It was like, 100,000 people just doing whatever.
Yeah. You can get anything into that place. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only thing I remember about it was we were in very tight quarters.
Yep.
It was raining a lot. It was wet and muddy. Everyone was cold.
It was cold.
The music was loud and the music was awesome.
Music was super loud and super awesome. Yeah.
Because some great artists performed there. Not only
amazing.
Younger artists, but like classic artists, right? Bob Dylan played Woodstock, like
right.
Peter Gabriel, like
amazing.
Yeah, like
yep.
But I think the interesting thing that my guest Bob actually worked the concert.
I did.
He was not just a participant in seeing and hearing music. He was an employee working in the pizza area, right, Bob?
So yes, this is correct. That is correct. So I don't remember exactly how we got involved with it. I think it was like a friend of a friend, right, and said, "Hey guys, you want to go to Woodstock '94? You can go for free if you work for our company. It's a pizza company, you know." And so we're like, so we get to go for free, and we don't have to work the whole time. You're just working like 4-hour shifts or something like that. And we're like, yeah, let's do it, man. You know, so we said, well, you know, sign us up. So we get on the bus. We get a bunch of school buses, right, to take us up there. It must have been like 2 or 3 school buses full of kids, you know, 20-somethings, 18, 19, 20, maybe 21, 22. That's about how old we were at the time. So we get on these buses, and we all go up to you know, New York, wherever it was. It wasn't technically Woodstock. It was a different town, but real close to Woodstock, if I remember correctly. Anyway, so we get in, and we get set up, and they had these big, like, circus-type tents for us. And there was cots in there, but they were just solid wood. It was like a piece of plywood, you know?
So it was a prison.
It was literally like a prison, but you could go out if you wanted to, you know? And so right away we're like, this isn't going to work. You know, like, I'm not going to sleep on a piece of plywood this whole time I'm here, which is like 3 or 4 days, right? So we're like, all right, we'll circle back to that. So we get to the pizza place, and we're in these like little pizza shacks, and there's like these pizza ovens that are sort of these like, you know, not rotating, like you put the pizza in one side and it spools on down and it comes out the other side, you know? You can make pepperoni, sausage, whatever everybody wants, you know? So we get in there and we start figuring all that out, and it was wild, man. I mean, people were coming up to the pizza shop. People didn't have money, you know. So girls were like, you know, hey, if I show you my boobs, can I get a pizza? You know,
that's
and
a
we're
good
like,
trade.
Yeah, it works, you know. So we would
I'm
do that.
Italian.
And,
I would make that trade every time.
Yeah, it was fine, and it got to be to the point where like it was happening a lot, and we were starting to be like, maybe we shouldn't be giving out all these pizzas, but you know, guys would come up and say, hey, man, I'll give you a joint for your pizza, man, you know? And so guys were like, yeah, it's fine, you know? So anywho, so the point of it is, it was so crazy, and it was so cold, and we didn't want to sleep in those things. We ended up sleeping underneath the pizza ovens, you know? Like, we would put them on this, like, sleep mode for the night, you know, where they were still on, but they were, like, in cool down or whatever. And we would tuck our sleeping bags under the pizza ovens. We have people raising their hands in the peanut gallery. What's the question from the audience?
What bands played at Woodstock?
So that's a great question. So
Yeah.
what bands played at Woodstock? That's
There was
a great
ton of
question.
bands, ton of bands.
So on the first night, which this is a great great question. The first night, there was a band called Blues Traveler. There was a band called Live. There was a great band called James. Sheryl Crow played on that Friday. Collective Soul, a personal favorite. Candlebox. The Goats. Huffamoose.
The Goats. Oh my God, I love the Goats.
And Jackal also played. On the second night, there was old school Joe Cocker. My personal favorite, Blind Melon. Cypress Hill.
No Rain.
Melissa Etheridge, Nine Inch Nails,
Rollins.
Metallica, Aerosmith,
Rollins played.
Rollins Band,
Nine Inch Nails.
Different Stage, Salt and Pepper,
Peppa.
the band featuring Hot Tuna, Bob Weir played, which I didn't even know at the time.
Neither
the
did I.
Cranberries, and then the bigger stage was Arrested Development, Traffic, Spin Doctors, Allman Brothers, Bob Dylan, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Peter Gabriel, Porno for Pyros.
Shelley, you said that.
Yeah, and Green Day, obviously. Jimmy Cliff's All-Star Reggae Band, Santana. So the lineup was pretty awesome. Like, I was there, and I didn't remember a lot of the bands that played. Gil Scott-Heron, Country Joe McDonald. So, big turnout.
I remember seeing Metallica. It was when I was in an off shift from the pizza shop. And it was just like Mike, you hit the nail on the head earlier in the podcast here when you said it was so loud and so awesome. I mean, it was like they had these giant walls of speakers. They must have been 3 stories high and 3 stories wide.
Yes.
And you could be like a quarter mile away from the stage and it sounded like you were right there. And Metallica was just so amazing. Like, they had pyrotechnics, flames, explosions. The music was so insane. I just remember sitting there, like, my jaw dropped, and I was like, holy crap. And at that time, I wasn't even actually like a huge Metallica fan, but that was just such an impressive show, and it was just such a cool experience. And it's one of those things that this was 94, what, 04, 14, almost 25 years ago for me.
Yeah.
And I still remember that like it was yesterday, hearing Metallica. It was amazing.
There was estimated that there were almost 600,000 people there.
Wow.
I remember not sleeping ever and getting lost every single night from the friends I was with because I wanted to see certain bands and like have certain experiences. And it was hard because it was so crowded. I mean, it was just a lot of people.
We didn't sleep much either. And I mentioned sleeping under the pizza oven, right? But heat rises, so, I mean, you got a little warmth in that thing. The other thing that we did, they had these big semi-trucks brought in that had pallets of the pizza boxes, like the cardboard pizza boxes. They were just stacked up in the back of these semi-trucks. And we would climb up to the top of these boxes, almost to near the top of the semi-truck, because it was warmer up there because the heat kind of rose in those things. Yeah. And we would sleep on top of the pizza boxes for the night, and get up, sleep for like a couple hours and get up.
So your survival was the pizza boxes.
Pizza boxes, pizza ovens. That's how we stayed warm.
Yeah. So the way we stayed warm was my friend John and Ricky slept in a cold, wet tent without sleeping bags, just nuzzled next to each other, hoping not to die.
Yeah, it was
and
cold.
I remember my mother being
ice cold. It was
mother being like,
freezing
I
at night.
remember the first Woodstock, people died. And I was like, whatever, we're not going to die. And the second night, I was like, I'm going to die of hypothermia.
Was it cold?
It was so cold.
It was cold. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was rainy.
I was literally like, my face
wet.
was like next to like fire from the pizza oven. Like,
yeah.
I was like, it's fine.
Well, it's the only time in my life where the movie Lord of the Flies, I was like, I could kill someone. Like, if I needed to survive,
right.
I could kill.
Well, it was like Lord of the Flies. It was so muddy, and people were crazy and just like
remember
running
the
all
fires?
around.
People lighting fires.
Remember the mosh pit at Green Day when Green Day played?
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that. That was people throwing mud everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know if somebody got killed in there. They could have.
Yeah. I don't know. Why do people act like animals? Like whatever.
It's the mosh pit,
I know.
Yeah.
Like, it was, I mean, that was insanity.
It was.
But the whole time,
It was great.
I don't know why. I kept hearing my mother's voice being like, "You're gonna die," and I'm I'm like, I'm just sleeping with my two friends from high school
You're
in
gonna die,
in a
Mikey.
muddy tent,
Right.
completely on drugs. Like,
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, that's what you did back then.
well,
you know?
you were safe underneath the pizza.
I was. I was actually pretty safe. What's funny is they built this giant. I mean, I'm not even kidding you. It must have been like 2 big tops, like 2 circus big tops, filled with these like wooden bunk beds that were literally just plywood beds, and nobody slept in them. They were empty because everybody slept in the pizza ovens or,
In
you
the
know,
pizza ovens.
under the pizza ovens, not in the pizza
Well, it
ovens.
sounds like pizza
Yeah.
prison.
It really was. It was pizza prison. They paid us, even though we gave away a lot of free pizzas. I don't think that guy made any money. I feel bad a little bit about that.
Didn't
to this
people
day.
like? I remember people like trying to sneak in like beer and like alcohol and like.
Yeah, I think it was pretty easy to sneak in. And, you know, what's crazy, like, is people snuck stuff in. It wasn't too bad. But another funny story. Quick question to you. Are there things in your life, in your history, in your past that somebody will bring up and say, hey, Mike, you remember when this happened? And you're like, I have no recollection
Yes.
of that whatsoever.
All the time.
But that person has a super crystal clear recollection of the story.
Yeah.
So
I bet it
that happened to
like,
me
it
in
happens
Woodstock.
like every month.
So a friend of mine that I went up with, right? This was after the show. We're on the bus ride home, back in those school buses, riding home. And my buddy, I'll just call him Jake, you know, to protect the guilty.
Yeah.
Something happened. I don't remember until, like, honest to God, about 6 months ago, I met up with him and I'm talking with him and he goes, man, he's like, I never told you this, but I really owe you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you remember Woodstock? And I'm like, yeah, kind of,
yeah.
a little. He's like, you remember the bus ride? And I'm like,
No.
a little, you know. He's like, well, I don't know if you remember, but I was trying to hook up with this girl, and apparently her ex-boyfriend was on the bus or the next bus with like a bunch of his buddies, and they got pissed because I was trying to hook up with her, even though they were broken up, and they wanted to kick my ass. And you stepped up and went and talked to the guy, and somehow you talked him down, and like you saved me from getting my ass kicked.
On a school bus?
I don't know, dude. It was like after the bus got home, and like it was like we were all getting off, you know. And he's like, "You really saved me, man, that day." So he's like, "Thanks, man. I appreciate it." I'm like, "No problem. I have
don't
no
even
fucking
remember-
recollection of that whatsoever."
remember.
I guess I did a good thing. So anyway, that was the end of my Woodstock trip, but it was crazy, you know.
But this is a fun conversation because I think about the guys I went to on that trip, and I remember, and hopefully, if I remember, I'll post it on the Rock
blog,
and Roll
yeah,
Friday
blog, yeah.
blog page.
Yeah.
There's a picture of us at the Crystal Lake Diner in Haddon Township leaving to go to Woodstock. And if you think about it, regardless of Woodstock 2 or whatever,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Right.
The point is, I think, there's a bunch of people collectively going to hear music somewhere on a journey, right? Like it doesn't matter that it was a big event,
Yeah,
a small
it's like
event.
a pilgrimage
We
to go,
all
yeah.
have our little, what's it called? Cliques, groups,
Yeah.
tribes.
Yeah, little
Like,
tribes, yeah.
And I feel good talking about my friends now because I love my friends. I mean, even Ricky and John and Kevin, these are guys I went to high school with, right? Like, for whatever reason, the four of us ended up in that van driving to upstate New York.
Saugerties or wherever the hell it was. Yeah.
Like, one of us, and I think it was Ricky, was like, hey, we got to get tickets to this. It's only $125 for
Right.
4 days. Think
Right.
about that right now.
Yeah, right.
$125
Yeah.
for 4 days of
yeah,
music.
Yeah.
And
It's like
you
$30
get the
bucks a day,
and
you
you
know?
get
Yeah.
the camp and whatever, and you get to bring your van into the thing.
Yeah, you get tents and you get a little piece of land
Yeah,
and you
and I was
stake out.
like,
It's muddy
like
as hell
I
there.
think about my mindset then and my buddy John and Ricky, and it's like, of course we would say yes, right? It's like we're going to hear
course.
music, we're going to hang out together.
Say yes today.
And we also met a couple friends from high school and people at the show, and like I think it's like, you know, regardless of the scale of the event, it's about getting together with people,
Right.
listening to
It's about
music,
being with your friends,
the
being with your
collective
people.
experience.
Right.
That's what
Right.
makes music and
Yeah.
concerts amazing.
Right, that collective experience when you look across the little field or the area where you're sitting and you see somebody who's jamming out to the same song you're jamming out. You make eye contact, you give each other a nod, maybe flip a quick peace sign or something like that, and you're like, and you just made a contact with that person you've never seen before in your life, but you just were both vibing on that little piece of music, and
yeah,
that's really cool.
Well, I think that's sports. That's
yep,
sometimes
sports,
art and music.
Yeah.
Like you think. I mean, the thing about the internet that's so cool is you find your tribe. Like if you have a favorite band or you have a favorite experience, you can find a group of people that love that thing also. I mean,
Absolutely.
Again, for me,
there's
my
tribes
favorite
for
bands,
everything, yeah.
like you connect with people that you never would ever meet. Like I have people that I connect with online or California, Europe, Asia, because we like the same type of music. So
Right.
It's like at least
Right.
I know
You
them
get in these
on
chat rooms, and
Yeah.
you get in these different, Facebook groups or Insta groups or whatever, right? When people have a common interest, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a band or a sports team or whatever, and you can really connect with people all around the whole world now, and that's really freaking cool. I'm glad you do that, man, because I wish I did more of that. To be honest, I don't do a lot of. I keep to myself, but it's something that I want to do more of, and I think taking advantage of the technology and stuff like that, I think people can do it. I'm kind of a private guy, so I keep to myself a bit, but I think it's really cool that it's out there and people do it. And
I think for all you people listening, if you didn't know about Woodstock '94 and the bands that played, and more importantly, not only the music that was played in that concert, check out the bands, right? Like I mentioned Blind Melon. Blind Melon is one of the most underrated bands because they weren't around that long.
Yeah.
And there's so many bands from that period of time, like that, 91 to 98 that faded away. But that doesn't mean the music isn't great, right? There's still great songs and great music. And I always urge people to check out bands that are like, oh, I like that song. Well, just don't check out that one song. Go check out their whole album.
Yeah, check their B-sides,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the bands you mentioned, and I'm looking it up now on my phone as we speak here, was the Goats.
The Goats. Yeah.
They were a hip-hop trio, right, from Philly, right, from our town, from our area. And I don't think they're together anymore, just based on what I'm looking at here. They were really short-lived. Man, but the Goats, man, they were awesome. And I completely forgot that they played at Woodstock. And I think I saw them when I was there. I'm not sure. I might have been working, but
even the not only the Goats, but Huffamoose
yeah.
was a Philly band also. So it's like you start to find these little nuggets of oh, who's this? And again, the internet allows us to dig deep into who's the band from, what's the bassist play, who is this group?
Yeah. I mean, the Goats, I think I'm just looking at now, they were from 91 to 94 and they disbanded. I don't know where they're at now, if anybody's doing anything else, but anywho, you saying that and mentioning that name made me think back, and they had some really cool stuff back then, man. Some really cool hip-hop stuff.
And that's why I think when people say, oh, I love that band, it's check out all check out their whole catalog, right?
Yeah.
And
got to dig deep sometimes to find the good nuggets,
So today's show was about Woodstock '94, the
94?
experience of working on the pizza side and being at the show. But more importantly, it was still a major, large concert for its time. And the amount of bands, and not only the amount of bands, but the quality of bands, more importantly, was pretty awesome. And I urge everyone to take a look at all the great bands that played that couple days. And
go back and check it out. Some of them aren't even together anymore, but they put out some great music. So
awesome. Rock and Roll Fridays.
Woohoo!